All right, guys, today we're going to be going over another type of graph. This is going to be called a stem and leaf plot. We're going to do 2 pages of notes. Both of them are stem and leaf plots. One's going to be with whole numbers, but we can also see stem and leaf plots with decimal numbers. So we're going to be seeing both of those. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So first, we need to know what a stem and leaf plot is. Some of you may have done stem and leaf plots in fourth grade. If you had, awesome. We'll review what they are real quick, and then we'll answer some questions about them. We'll actually make a couple of our own as well. So first, a stem and leaf plot displays numerical. That just means numbers. It displays or it shows numerical data. Now, what it does with this data is it splits each data point or each number into two parts: a leaf, which is usually going to be the first digit of the number, so the beginning of the number, and then the stem. This is why it's called a stem and leaf plot. It has a stem and a leaf. So, um, or sorry, last digit. The leaf represents the last digit, and the stem, which is any numbers before the last one. So it's any preceding digit or digits. Preceding just means in front of it, before. Okay, now, this data is going to be organized from least to greatest. So this is one nice thing about stem and leaf plots is our numbers are ordered from the smallest to the greatest. All right, make sure, just double check, make sure you put last right here because I know I put first because I was doing a little incorrect. So make sure you put first. It's usually the first digit, and the stem is any numbers before the first or the preceding digits. Okay, let's practice making a stem and leaf plot. So we have some data here. This data is from meteorologists. Hey, there's someone who's studied weather, right? Meteorologist Shel Winkley recorded the high temperatures for 2 weeks in College Station. And what we have to do is make a stem and leaf plot to represent the data. Okay, so how do we make a stem and leaf plot? Well, we have a few parts, so I'm going to label them. This part, this whole front part that I'm highlighting, this is called the stem, right? Think of it like a plant. You have your little plant with the stem, and then what grows off of the stem? All the little leaves. So we have a stem, and then this whole other part over here is going to be what we call our leaves. So I'll put this in red. So the rest of this is the leaf. Now you don't have to highlight this like I am. I'm just doing it to show you the different parts. So we have a stem and we have a leaf. So not the best highlighting job ever. Now, if we remember, our leaf represents our leaf represents the last digit in our number, and the stem represents the first digits in our number. So basically what a stem and leaf plot does is it takes a number like 65 and it breaks it up. The first digit goes into the stem, S for stem. The second digit goes into the leaf. Okay. Now, the best way to do this is to organize our numbers from least to greatest. So I'm going to go here. Let's look at all my 30s. I have a 37, 34, 38. So I'm just going to order them from least to greatest right below. So we have 34 is my smallest number. I'm going to mark it off, write it. 37 is my next smallest number, and then 38. Okay. Now, I don't have any more 30s, so I'm going to go to my 40s. I have 43, 43. Okay, so I'm going to write both of those, 43, 43. No more 40s. Now I have 50s, 56, 55. So I'm going to mark both of those and write them 55, 56. Now I have some 60s. I have 60. I'm going to have to redraw my arrow over here because it kind of got in the way. I have 60. I have 62. I have two of them. And yes, you do have to put both of them. 62. 62. I have 65 and 65. I ran out of room. 67, 68 are my last two. Not the most organized. Sorry about that, but we just ran out of room. So we have all my numbers, and they're from least to greatest. Well, that's important because stem and leaf plots are from least to greatest. So I want to start with my smallest number. Now I'm going to break apart this 34. Sorry, I'm going to break apart this 34. The 3 is going to go into the stem. Remember, the first number goes into the stem. The last number goes into the leaf. So look, I just represented 34. Awesome. Now, I also need to represent 37. So you may think, now I'm going to put another 3 and then put a 7. You don't actually do that. You use the same stem. So I still have my 30 stem right here. I'm going to just add a comma. Sometimes we don't even add a comma, depending on the stem and leaf plot. Then I'm going to have a 7. And now I'm representing 34, and I'm representing 37. Awesome. I have another 30, 38. So if you kind of figured out how to do it, now we're going to write an 8 in the leaf. So in this one, the leaves are the ones place value, and the stem is the tens place value. Do I have any more 30s? No. I wrote them all. Since I put them in order, it's easy to see I don't have any more 30s. Now I'm going to do my 40s. So what do? I'm going to go down. Now this stem is representing the 40s. I'm going to write all my 40s, 43, 43. So I'm going to write 3 for the first one, comma, and then 3. Also, notice how my stem and leaf plot's in order from least to greatest, 34, 37, 38, 43, 43. This is what kind of makes stem and leaf plots nice. I can look at my data from least to greatest pretty easily. All right, now I have 50, 50. So I'm going to put all my 5 in the stem. I'm going to put all my ones place value that are in the 50s in the leaf. 55, 56. And then I'm going to do my 60s. So I'm going to put 6 in the stem. 60. Yeah, I got to put a 0 because I got to represent 60. 2 62s. So I'm going to put 2, comma, 2. 65, 65. Yeah, you do have to put repeated numbers. We can't just ignore those. 5, 5, and then 7, because 67, and then 8, because we have a 68. Not a very good 8. Okay, my stem and leaf plot is done. Okay, have all our numbers plotted, crossed them all out, they're all there. This is a stem and leaf plot. So some big things are, we know the biggest number is the last number at the bottom. We know the smallest number is the first number at the top. Okay, so that helps you see quickly the biggest and smallest numbers here. So remember, we're talking about temperatures. So the lowest temperature was 34 and the highest temperature was 68. Awesome. We could also answer other questions about that, which we're going to do with another stem and leaf plot. So let's go ahead and look. So this stem and leaf plot below shows the number of athletes different countries sent to the Olympics. We're going to answer the following questions. So we have an athlete per country stem and leaf plot. How many countries had fewer than 35 athletes are going to be the first question we answer. So our stem and leaf plot has the tens place value and then all the ones place value. Okay, so we got to know, like, this number, this leaf is 6. This leaf is 10. This leaf is 23. You're kind of pushing the numbers together in your head. Okay, all right, so let's answer the question. How many countries had fewer than 35 athletes? Well, we know we definitely don't want to look at the 40s stem or 50s or 60s or 70s. We want to look below that. Now, what does fewer than mean? This is one of these phrases. We have to understand what it means. So I see we have a country that sent 35, right? So is fewer than 35, or sorry, if I rephrase this, is 35 fewer than 35? No, that doesn't make sense, right? 35 is equal to 35. So we're not going to say it's equal. So we're not going to include this leaf. What we are going to do, though, is count every other leaf. This is less than 35, so that's 1. These 4, aren't they all lower than 35? Yeah, 23, 24, 25, and 27. So far we have 1 and 4. And then this one's lower than 35, and this one's lower than 35. So really everything below these in this little area, right, is less than 35. So how many do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I lost my count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 countries had less than 35. Now, I wouldn't always draw my stem and leaf plot too much if you have more than one question. you only have one question, then yeah, sure, draw all over your stem and leaf plot. But if we start circling numbers, kind of like I did, it's going to be hard because we have another question about the stem and leaf plot now. How many countries had more than 55 athletes? Okay, well, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to figure out at what point is more than 55. And we're going to count all of those. So definitely not anything in my 40s, right? Because we know 40s are not more than 55, right? They're in the 40s. They're less than. So we got to look closely at our 55. Our 50s stem. All these numbers represent numbers that are in the 50s, and we got to pick the ones that are more than 55. Is 54 more than 55? No. But 56 is. So I'm going to pick all these numbers above it. And then I know my 60s are more, and I know my 70s are more. So I'm going to count all these numbers. Maybe a highlighter will help. Pick all these numbers that I kind of drew a line through because all of these represent more than 55. These countries sent more than 55 athletes. So how many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. No, that's where both of our answers are 7. Yeah, cool. All right. So again, this is a lot of reading and understand what the question's asking. Okay. And then once we understood what the question was asking, it's really just counting, right? Counting to 7. Not too bad, but we have to know what the question's asking. All right, so this is all whole numbers. Sadly, in 5th grade, we don't only deal with whole numbers in stem and leaf plots. That'd be a little easy. We also have to deal with decimals and even fractions maybe. So let's go ahead and look at how to do this with decimals and fractions. So to create a stem and leaf plot with decimals and fractions, the whole number will be the stem. And then the decimal part or fraction will be the leaf. Okay, and it's still kind of the same thing. You're still pushing the numbers together. All right, students were practicing measuring liquids and cylinders. The list below shows the amount of water they were measuring. Make a stem and leaf plot of this data. So right here we have some numbers. We have 2s, 1s, 3s, and 4s. So I know in my stem and leaf plot I'm going to have 2s. Oh, I always start with the smallest one. 1s, 2s, 3, and 4. All right, so I'm going to plot all my 1s from least to greatest. I'm not going to put them in order this time. You always can do that, but it's going to be a little faster. So 1.0, put a comma. 1.5 is my next smallest one, and 1.8. Now, if some of you are wondering, how do I know if my stem and leaf plot is showing 10 or 1.0? This is where there will be something called a key. Okay? And your key will tell you, hey, if your stem and leaf plot says this, that'll equal 1.0. That way you know the stem is the 1's place value and the leaf is the 10th's place value right behind the decimal. Okay, let's continue with the 2's. I see 2.0, 2.2, 2.5. So they're actually in order. So I'm going to put 2.0, 2.2, and 2.5. Okay, now I'm going to do my 3's, 3.0 and 3.5. I'm going to put both of those, 0.30 or 3.0, comma, 5. And then I only have 1 4. So I'm going to just put that, 4.1. I think I plotted all these. Stem and leaf plot should be good. Again, very important when you have a stem and leaf plot to check your key because your key is going to tell you whether you're working in decimals or whole numbers like this did. Okay. Next one, the ages of children who attended Suzanne's School of Dance are shown in the stem and leaf plot. Use the plot to answer the questions. So we have some students who are like 7 and 1/12 years old, or 7 and 1/6, 7 and 1/2, 7 and 3/4, so on. All right. And then notice it has a key down here, right? 7 line, this line's representing this line, and 1/2 means 7 and 1/2. So you just put the whole number and the fraction together, and it'll represent how many years they are. How old is the youngest child that attends dance school? Okay, well, where would we find the youngest student? In the 11s, 10s, 9s, 8s, or 7s? Definitely in the 7s, right? 7 years is the youngest year, but the youngest one is not 7 years old exactly. They have some months on them. So we would think, well, just because it's a stem and leaf plot, so I know the smallest number is always this one. And what number is this 1/2 or 1/12 leaf representing? It's representing 7 and 1/12. So that is the youngest student at this dance school. She's 7 and 1/12 years old. All right. Next question. How many children attend dance school? How would I know that? Well, I know every single one of the students there has an age. So if I count all the ages, I will know how many total students are there. So I would not count my stems, but I would count my leaves. The amount of leaves tells me how many total whatever I have in my stem and leaf plot. I have students, so I can count all the leaves, and it'll tell me how many students I have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. 22 children. Now notice I did not count my stems, count my leaves. My leaves are what tell me how many total I have in my stem and leaf plot. In this case, it's talking about students that are doing dance. How many children are older than 10 and a half years old? Okay, well, again, I need to find where's 10 and a half, and I need to pick older than 10 and a half. So I'm not going to pick anyone that's 9, 7, 8, or 9. They're not older than 10 and a half for sure. I want to look at my tens, see if any of these fractions are more than 1/2. So is 1/4, is 10 and 1/4 more than 1/2? Don't think so. Is 5/12 more than 1/2? Well, 6/12 is a half, and that's less than that, so no. Is 1/2 more than 1/2 or older than 1/2? No, they're exactly 10 and a half. I want only older students for this question. No, they're not. So I'm going to pick all the students that are definitely 11. They're older than 10 and a half. How many is that? 1. Remember, every leaf represents one student. 2, 3. So I'm going to count all the leaves in the 11. All right, so how many children are older than 10 and a half? 3 of them are. Okay, that's going to be your notes. Make sure you go ahead and move on to your practice next. Try to get that done so you're not behind and you have everything done and caught up.